Athletes don't have more discipline. They use a different brain mode. Most people believe elite athletes are simply born with more discipline. They imagine these people wake up excited to train, eager to work, and somehow immune to procrastination. But that's one of the biggest myths about high performance. The truth is much more surprising. Athletes don't have a brain that craves hard work. They experience the same resistance you do. They feel the same temptation to stay comfortable. Their minds search for distractions. They get tired. They lose motivation. Researchers who study human performance have shown that the brain naturally tries to conserve energy whenever possible. In other words, your brain isn't trying to make you successful. It's trying to keep you comfortable. So why do elite performers keep moving while everyone else stops? The answer isn't stronger willpower. It's because they activate a completely different mental mode before their emotions have a chance to take control. Think about the last time you avoided something important. Maybe it was studying, exercising, finishing a project, or making a difficult decision. Chances are you didn't fail because the task was impossible. You failed because your brain convinced you to wait just a little longer. 5 more minutes. 1 more video. Tomorrow will be better. That silent negotiation happens so quickly that most people never notice it. They think they're making a rational decision, when in reality, their brain is simply following ancient survival patterns designed to avoid effort and seek immediate rewards. Elite athletes understand this better than almost anyone. Instead of fighting their brain every day, they train it to stop negotiating in the first place. Performance specialists explain that repeated exposure to specific mental routines changes how the brain responds to effort over time. What once felt difficult begins to feel normal. What once required enormous motivation becomes automatic. Eventually, action happens before excuses even appear. This is where something extraordinary begins to happen. Many top athletes enter a state where distractions seem to disappear. Decisions become effortless, and their full attention locks onto a single objective. Time feels different. Their movements become smoother. Their mind grows quieter. Sports psychologists often call this state the zone. Most people think entering the zone is pure luck or natural talent. It isn't. It isn't. There are specific triggers that make this state far more likely, and once you understand them, you'll realize they can be applied far beyond sports. They can completely transform the way you study, work, build habits, and stay productive every single day. But before you can activate the zone, there's one invisible battle you have to win first. It happens during the very first moments after you decide to do something. Those first 60 seconds determine whether your brain starts working for you or against you. And what elite athletes do during that tiny window changes everything. TRICK number 1. Win the first 60 seconds before your brain starts negotiating. The biggest mistake people make is believing that action comes after motivation. Elite athletes know the opposite is true. Action comes first, and motivation follows. The moment you decide to do something, your brain immediately begins calculating the cost. Is this difficult? Will it require energy? Can I do something easier instead? This entire process happens in seconds, often before you're even aware of it. Behavior researchers have observed that the longer this internal conversation continues, the less likely you are to begin the task. Every extra second gives your brain another opportunity to choose comfort over progress. That's why elite athletes train themselves to shorten the distance between decision and movement. When it's time to train, they don't sit there thinking about how they feel. They stand up, they put on their shoes, they walk onto the field, into the gym, or toward the track. They understand that movement interrupts hesitation. Your brain responds much more strongly to what your body is doing than to what your mind is promising. Thinking about working doesn't build momentum. Starting, dos. This is why many coaches encourage athletes to focus only on the first action instead of the entire challenge. Don't think about finishing a 2-hour workout. Think about tying your shoes. Don't think about writing 20 pages. Open the document and write 1 sentence. That tiny action sends an important signal to your brain. The mission has already started. Once movement begins, something interesting happens. The resistance that felt overwhelming only moments before starts to shrink. Scientists who study habits explain that beginning a task is often the hardest part because your brain is leaving the comfort of rest and entering a state of focused effort. After that transition, continuing usually requires far less mental energy than starting. This is why elite performers never wait to feel ready. They know readiness is often created by action, not the other way around. Starting quickly also protects you from one of the brain's favorite tricks: endless negotiation. Every excuse sounds reasonable when you're standing still. Once you're already moving, those same excuses lose much of their power. From today on, stop asking yourself whether you feel motivated. Ask yourself a better question. What is the smallest physical action I can take right now? Then do it immediately. It may seem almost too simple to matter, but this single habit has helped countless high performers eliminate hours of procrastination without relying on willpower. But starting fast isn't enough. Even people who begin with energy often lose focus a few minutes later because they're fighting another invisible enemy they don't even realize exists. Trick number 2: build invisible routines that remove thousands of decisions. Most people think discipline means making the right choice over and over again. Athletes know that's exhausting. Every decision you make consumes a small amount of mental energy. What time should I start? Should I train now or later? Which task comes first? Maybe I should check my phone before I begin. None of these choices seem important on their own, but together they create constant friction. By the time you finally start working, you've already spent part of your focus on decisions that never should have existed. Performance experts have long observed that elite athletes reduce unnecessary choices wherever possible. They don't depend on daily inspiration. They depend on systems. Their training clothes are ready before they wake up. Their workouts follow a schedule. Their meals are planned. Their environment is organized to make the next action obvious. This isn't about being obsessive. It's about protecting mental energy for the moments that actually matter. Scientists who study habits explain that the brain loves patterns because patterns reduce effort. When a behavior is repeated in the same context, the brain begins recognizing it as familiar. Instead of asking, "Should I do this?" it starts expecting the action automatically. That's when discipline begins to feel lighter. Imagine walking into a room where your desk is already clean, your phone is out of reach, your notebook is open, and the only thing left to do is begin. Compare that to sitting down, surrounded by distractions, notifications, clutter, and dozens of unfinished tasks competing for your attention. The difference isn't motivation. The difference is design. Elite athletes don't build routines because they're naturally disciplined. They build routines because routines eliminate opportunities for laziness to take control. Every repeated action becomes a silent instruction your brain learns to follow. After enough repetitions, you stop relying on self-control and start relying on automatic behavior. This is one of the biggest shifts you can make. Stop asking yourself how to become more disciplined. Start asking how to make good decisions unnecessary. Because every choice you remove is one less chance for procrastination to win. But even the best routine can collapse in minutes if your brain is constantly craving something more exciting. And that's exactly where the next trick changes everything. Trick number 3: make your brain crave progress instead of entertainment. One of the biggest misconceptions about dopamine is that it's the chemical of pleasure. It isn't. Neuroscientists explain that dopamine is much more closely connected to anticipation. It pushes you toward what your brain expects will be rewarding in the near future. This is why your phone can feel impossible to ignore. Every notification, every short video, every new piece of content teaches your brain to expect an immediate reward with almost no effort. Over time, your attention becomes trained to chase stimulation instead of progress. Elite athletes reverse this process. Instead of teaching their brain to expect excitement from distractions, they teach it to expect satisfaction from improvement. This doesn't happen by accident. It happens through deliberate feedback. Watch a professional athlete during training. They don't wait until the end of the season to feel successful. Every completed repetition matters. Every second improved on the stopwatch matters. Every small technical adjustment matters. Their brain receives constant evidence that effort creates progress. Behavior specialists have found that visible progress increases the desire to continue. The brain begins linking effort with achievement instead of discomfort. That's why high performers break massive goals into tiny, measurable wins. Instead of focusing on losing 20 pounds, they celebrate completing today's workout. Instead of thinking about writing an entire book, they focus on finishing one page. Instead of obsessing over becoming successful, they measure whether they became slightly better than yesterday. Each small victory becomes proof that the process is working. And that proof is powerful. Because your brain doesn't need a huge reward every day. It needs frequent evidence that moving forward is worth repeating. This is also why tracking your progress can completely change your consistency. A checklist, a calendar, a notebook, or even a simple habit tracker gives your brain something visible to chase. You're no longer working only for a distant result. You're working to maintain momentum. Slowly, something remarkable happens. The same brain that once craved endless entertainment starts craving another completed session, another productive day, another personal record. This is how discipline becomes rewarding instead of exhausting. But there is one obstacle that still stops most people. Even after building strong habits and learning to enjoy progress, they quit the moment the work becomes uncomfortable. Elite athletes are trained to do the exact opposite, and that's where their greatest advantage begins. Trick number 4. Train under resistance until discomfort feels normal. Most people think discipline means forcing yourself to work harder. Elite athletes see it differently. They train themselves to become comfortable with discomfort. That sounds simple, but it changes everything. The average person treats discomfort as a warning. The moment a task becomes mentally exhausting, boredom appears, or progress feels slow, the brain interprets those feelings as a signal to stop. Athletes learn to interpret the exact same feelings as proof that they're in the right place. Sports psychologists have observed that elite performers don't eliminate discomfort. They change their relationship with it. During intense training, they experience fatigue, frustration, self-doubt, and the desire to quit, just like everyone else. The difference is that they don't immediately react to those emotions. They allow them to exist without letting them make the decision. This ability can be trained. Every time you stay focused for 5 more minutes after your brain tells you to quit, you're strengthening more than your discipline. You're teaching your brain that discomfort isn't an emergency. Over time, this creates a powerful shift. What once felt unbearable starts feeling familiar. Researchers studying adaptation have found that repeated exposure changes how the brain predicts future experiences. When difficult work becomes something you face regularly, your brain stops treating it as a threat and starts accepting it as part of your normal routine. This is why experienced athletes can perform under pressure without appearing overwhelmed. It's not because pressure disappeared. It's because their brain has stopped wasting energy fighting it. You can apply the same principle to your own life. When you're studying and your mind wants to reach for your phone, stay with the task just a little longer. When you're exercising and your body tells you to stop, complete one more set. When you're working on an important project and boredom appears, resist the urge to escape immediately. These small moments matter far more than they seem. Every time you refuse to obey your first impulse to quit, you weaken that impulse the next time it appears. Little by little, the uncomfortable becomes familiar. The familiar becomes easier, and the easier becomes your new standard. This is the moment where many elite athletes experience something extraordinary. They stop fighting for focus because focus begins happening naturally. It feels almost effortless. That's the mental state known as the zone, and contrary to what most people believe, it isn't random. It can be triggered on purpose. Trick number 5. Trigger the zone before your brain notices. Most people believe the zone is something that either happens or doesn't. They think it's a lucky day when everything clicks. Elite athletes know better. The zone isn't an accident. It's the result of preparing the brain to enter a state of complete focus before distractions have a chance to take over. Performance researchers have found that the brain performs best when it receives consistent signals that it's time to concentrate. This is why the world's best athletes rarely begin training without a ritual. Watch them before a competition. Many adjust their breathing the same way every time. They warm up using the same sequence of movements. They repeat the same mental cue. Some even listen to the same music or follow the same pre-performance routine before stepping onto the field. These rituals aren't superstition. They're instructions. After repeating them hundreds of times, the brain begins associating those actions with deep concentration. Eventually, the ritual itself becomes a switch. You can build the same switch. Before starting an important task, avoid jumping in with a distracted mind. Create a short routine that never changes. Sit in the same place. Remove every unnecessary distraction. Take a few slow breaths. Look at only one objective. Then begin immediately. Keep the ritual simple enough that you can repeat it every day. The power doesn't come from complexity. It comes from consistency. Another characteristic of athletes in the zone is that they never divide their attention between multiple priorities. Their brain isn't trying to answer messages, think about tomorrow's schedule, and complete today's work at the same time. There is only one target. Psychologists who study peak performance explain that deep focus becomes possible when attention stops, jumping between competing demands. Every interruption forces the brain to spend extra energy rebuilding concentration. That's why protecting your attention is just as important as improving it. When your environment, your routine, and your first actions all point toward a single objective, your brain gradually stops resisting and starts cooperating. The task no longer feels like something you're forcing yourself to do. It becomes the only thing your mind wants to do. This is the zone. Not magic, not talent. A trained mental state created through repetition. But if these 5 strategies are so effective, why do so many people still struggle with discipline, productivity, and consistency? The answer has very little to do with laziness and everything to do with how the modern world has trained your brain to seek immediate rewards. Why most people never reach this state. If you've ever called yourself lazy, undisciplined, or incapable of staying consistent, there's a good chance you've been blaming the wrong problem. The modern world is designed to train your brain in the exact opposite direction of elite performance. Every day, you're surrounded by systems competing for one thing: your attention. Social media platforms, streaming services, endless notifications, instant messages, and constant entertainment all reward the same behavior. They teach your brain to switch focus, chase novelty, and expect immediate gratification. At first, this seems harmless, but over time your brain starts treating anything that requires sustained effort as unusually difficult. Neuroscientists explain that the brain constantly adapts to the environments it experiences most often. If it's repeatedly rewarded for short bursts of stimulation, it becomes less willing to tolerate activities where rewards arrive later. This is why reading for 30 minutes can suddenly feel exhausting, while scrolling on your phone for an hour feels effortless. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it has been trained to do. The encouraging part is that the same ability that allowed your brain to adapt in the wrong direction can help it adapt in the right one. Think back to the 5 strategies you've just learned. Starting before your brain negotiates interrupts procrastination before it gains momentum. Building invisible routines removes unnecessary decisions. Celebrating small progress teaches your brain to seek improvement instead of entertainment. Training through discomfort increases your tolerance for effort. Creating a consistent ritual makes deep focus easier to access. None of these techniques work because they're motivational tricks. They work because each one retrains a specific mental pattern that has been quietly controlling your behavior. This is why lasting discipline isn't built in a single day. It's built every time you repeat the behaviors that strengthen focus instead of distraction. Every productive choice sends your brain a message: this is who we are now. Eventually, those choices stop feeling like sacrifices. They become your default way of living. And when that happens, something incredible changes. You no longer spend your days fighting yourself. You spend them moving forward. That is the real advantage elite athletes have developed. Not stronger muscles, not superior genetics. A brain that has been trained to cooperate with their goals instead of constantly resisting them. Now, there's one final lesson that ties everything together. Because the ultimate goal isn't becoming someone who depends on motivation. It's becoming someone who no longer needs it. Become the kind of person who doesn't need motivation. Take a moment to think about the people you admire most. Elite athletes, top performers, and individuals who consistently achieve difficult goals all seem to possess incredible discipline. From the outside, it looks like they simply have more self. Now, you know the truth. They didn't build a better life because they had stronger motivation. They built it because they stopped depending on motivation altogether. That's the lesson hidden behind everything you've learned today. They act before their brain begins negotiating. They create routines that eliminate unnecessary choices. They train their mind to enjoy progress instead of constant entertainment. They become comfortable with discomfort instead of running from it. And they build rituals that make deep focus easier to enter every single day. None of these habits are extraordinary on their own. Their power comes from repetition. Researchers who study habit formation consistently show that every repeated action strengthens the mental pathways connected to that behavior. Each time you choose focused work over instant gratification, you make that decision slightly easier the next time. This is how identity changes, not through one dramatic moment, through hundreds of ordinary decisions that quietly reshape the way your brain operates. One day, you realize something has changed. You no longer argue with yourself before starting. You don't need the perfect mood. You don't wait for inspiration. You begin because beginning has become part of who you are. That is the real meaning of discipline. It's not forcing yourself to suffer, it's creating a brain that naturally supports the person you want to become. Remember, every distraction you resist is a vote for your future. Every focused session strengthens your ability to stay in control. Every productive day makes the next one easier. The zone isn't reserved for world-class athletes. It's available to anyone willing to train their mind with consistency. The question isn't whether you're capable of reaching that level. The question is what decision you'll make the next time your brain tells you to wait. Because that single moment may be the one that begins transforming the rest of your life.